Hello and welcome to the Cutie Art Crusaders, episode 8 for August 21st, 2012. Welcome back, guys. I am back in the editing seat, and it feels... fantastic. Well, actually, it doesn't feel that great. It means that tomorrow I'm gonna have to spend 5 or 6 hours listening to this again. It was actually quite nice last week with burned editing. Speaking of which, let me introduce my co-hosts here. My name is Rainbow Plasma, and I'm the organizer and, once again, editor of the podcast. And I'm joined today by...
I'm Flutterguy317, and I handle art submissions and the art in the show in general.
And I am Pinky Dash. I do all the questions, and I also am being slack at responding to emails.
Hey, Rainbow Plasma, where's Byrne today?
Burned is at Everfree Northwest. We mentioned this last week, but
so jealous.
he couldn't. He happens to live near Seattle, so he got a chance to head out to Everfree Northwest and is hanging out with all the Everfree guys and all the other pony people out there. So while he's out there having fun, we are sitting back here and making a podcast and having more fun.
Yes, but he's getting swag.
Yeah, he's getting us swag too. So
yes,
you know,
that is true.
I still really want a plushie.
Yeah, well, we can't ship you a plushie. Sorry. Yeah. Anyways, this week we're obviously without Burn, so it's going to be a little bit of a different episode. I think it's a little bit less technical with Burn gone and a little bit more look at the pretty art.
Yeah. Pretty bit less sort of talking and rambling and cage rattling.
I'll have to yeah, there's we don't have any use for the cage this week. We're going to have to stick something in the cage this week because we can't put Burned in there.
Let's put your plushies in there so that I don't have to look at them.
All right, so this week, as we mentioned last week, we have a theme. So, Pinky Dash, you want to tell us what the theme is?
Yes, theme this week is ponies.
No, it's flying. Someone's changed the Google Doc. The theme is flying.
Theme is flying, so not just ponies, not just Pegasi, but anything that can fly. So that's birds, that's insects, that's, ponies that are Pegasi.
Pinkie Pie too. Pinkie Pie.
It's not really a technical episode.
It's not a ponies theme. It's more of it's a pretty picture theme.
Yeah, we figured we have a week here. We have some special stuff coming up that we'll tell you at the end of the show.
Oh yeah.
In the next few weeks, but we have a week here kind of in the middle where Burn's gone that we figured we could kind of sit back, relax, and look at some pretty pictures. So speaking of pretty pictures,
yep.
Don't know why I'm putting
away
on this voice.
Hey, so, was that an Elmer Fudd impression?
I don't even know. It's just a weird voice.
It's his Canadian accent, obviously.
It could be. Did you know you can change Google into Elmer Fudd language? That's pretty cool. I discovered that years ago.
Let's move on to the art, shall we?
Yes, the art. Oh, the beautiful, beautiful art. All right, our first piece is called Royal Rumble by Dark Marwari. I hope I'm pronouncing that correct.
That was really good, actually.
Thanks.
Marwari. The tough one.
Again, I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name.
And again, I'm not, because if you have a name that's hard to pronounce, then you suck. Just kidding. Anyways, onto the art. This art piece, Royal Rumble, is basically just a. I have a hard time telling. This must be digital art. I mean, obviously it's not a painting, but sometimes it's hard to tell exactly how it's made.
This, I believe, it looks like it's done in Photoshop, but I'm not entirely sure.
Right, it didn't really have a great description on DeviantArt, but it's basically just three of the princesses. So we got Princess Celestia, Princess Luden, Princess Luna, and then Princess Cadence, who's obviously the Changeling Queen. And it's a very interesting piece, and it's something that we immediately saw when we had the flying theme going.
Yes,
it's really nice.
The first thing that really struck out at me, in terms of flying with this piece, is if you look at their wings, they all have on the front of the wings. There's a cloud forming, kind of like you see on supersonic jets or something like that, and that kind of really shows motion of flying, which is pretty awesome.
Right, I guess how fast they're going through the air.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think also a good thing to note is it's hard to notice a lot, but even in the show, I don't think wings are that big.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this artist has obviously chosen to make the wings quite big to emphasize the wings in this one. So
it's almost as if they made this for our podcast.
Look, they're flying
in their face.
Yeah, it's definitely got those speed marks. You can tell, especially on Luna's left wing. We'll zoom in there. You can see those like almost like you're cutting right through the air so fast that you can see it.
Yep. Yeah, it looks pretty
There's
awesome.
a bit of that on Celestia's as well. On her, in fact, both of her wings.
Yep.
Cadence, it's not so obvious, but it's there slightly. You probably can't see it on the video.
Yeah, the motion is really interesting in this piece just because they're all going different directions. I mean, if you look at, I kind of looked at the hair originally to kind of tell what direction they were going, and so you can see obviously Cadence is heading off to the right there, almost like she's evading them. Celestia's swooping in from the top, and then Luna looks like she's overshot or something, or gone too fast, and is like swooping way down to the left and has missed Cadence or something.
Yep.
I don't know. It's kind of hard in this picture to tell the motion, but maybe the hair is a good indication of that.
Yeah, the hair is
on hair. I really like the way that Cadence's hair is done. Her hair and her tail.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's kind of
That's something I do
overemphasizing them. You know, the hair. If you look at the hair in comparison to her head. And for the other princesses, kind of too, but for especially Cadence, it is much bigger, much poofier. You know, it adds emphasis to it.
Yeah, I really like actually Celestia's hair, just because of they use the strokes instead of in the show. Celestia's hair is kind of just a single blob of translucent color.
Goo.
Yeah, and here they use strokes to like give it kind of a motion to it, it looks awesome.
Yeah, I personally, I'm not really a fan of the princess's hair, like in the show, Celestia's, and then in season 2, Luna's one.
Like the see-through color.
Yeah, the see-through and the waviness, and just maybe it's because I'm a vector and it's impossible to do, but I'm not sure. I like it kind of looking like hair, and it just doesn't look that way to me. I liked Luna's season 1 main better. I'm not sure about you guys.
Huh.
I like the in the fan art versions. I like the ultra realism, like it isn't like it's done in this one. Cadence's main.
Yeah, where you can see more.
It's not so ultra realistic, to steal a word from Burned, but in some of the other ones that were featured in previous weeks, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, especially like that Fluttershy one last week.
Right. Yeah.
Also like the fire around Cadence Chrysalis.
Yes.
Mm-hmm, yeah, I guess
fire.
that is Chrysalis, not Cadence, but it looks like Cadence, so we're gonna say Cadence.
Yeah, green fire is way too cool.
I think it's cool because it looks like the fire is almost imitating the lightning. I mean, we mentioned this in our fire episode that it's hard to make fire look like fire, and I think this is one of the examples where it doesn't exactly look like fire. I mean, it's hard to say because we're coming in from a perspective where we watch the episode and we know that the green is fire. But I think if we just take a look at this like objectively, it kind of looks like almost like green lightning.
Yeah, I could see that. That's pretty neat actually, because it ties into the lightning in the picture, and like a lot of the lightning in the picture is kind of thick.
Yeah, I wonder if that was a choice.
Yeah.
I wonder if that was a choice to specifically make it look more like lightning, or maybe like I said before, fire's hard, so maybe that's just their particular art style because we see they've made their own art decisions with the big wings and the big hair. So maybe that's just again one of their art choices with fire. A lot of art choices I've found, especially more and more as I get into original stuff, a lot of art choices that you see, for example, that fire or the wings or something is made because it's easier at the time. It sounds really bad, but I'm sure any artist can agree that sometimes you can just make something and it's easier to make, and you kind of pass it off as your own style.
It's true.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't know about you guys, but
not at all.
No, not at all.
Again, we're coming from a biased position here.
If it looks good, if it looks pretty, then yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. Show accuracy isn't always important. It's hard when we do original stuff in vector form. It's kind of hard because it looks like the show, so it should look exactly like the show. But I think it's important to stray away from the show a lot of times because you get those really unique art styles.
That's when the awesome comes out.
Yeah, you guys have both done vectors of sketches that are original style, and those came out really well.
Yeah, it's funny. It's almost like I made my own original style when I sketched stuff. Like when I sketch stuff, I'm attempting to do it show accurately, but just my natural tendencies would translate into how they look, and it would give them a different style to it. Naturally my sketches make longer, leaner ponies. Just naturally.
Yeah. Cool. Actually, one more thing from me with this piece is I really like how the ruffle feathers are done on their wings, because like especially with Luna's, you can see they're not all pointing back. It's almost like she's in a crosswind, or like she's banking, because she has these feathers that are kind of pointing towards the tip of her wing instead of straight back, which is what you'd expect. So I think that was really well done.
I like it when the individual feathers are showing in wings.
Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite non-show accurate things. It's a kind of common theme, because the wings are done obviously in the show so that they can be done easily and reused in scenes and stuff like that. I love it when people decide to, add the feathers into it, because it always comes out really well.
Yeah.
Well, it's because wings are what make Pegasi Pegasi. So you can't have a Pegasus without wings. Well, not really, anyway. But so to focus on the wings and make the wings stand out and pop in something that involves a Pegasus sort of is expected, and it works.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
I like it because wings are awesome, and I wish I had some.
We'll try
My
to find you
ideal
some.
superpower would be flight.
No, that's 100% me too. For my entire life, when people have said, "What's your what's your superpower?" Some people are like, "Be invisible or be super strong." I'm like, "Nope, fly."
Fly.
100%.
That'd be
I don't
awesome.
care if I get goofy wings on my back. If I can fly, then
I
totally
would actually prefer to have the goofy wings on my back, because
Yeah.
that leaves my hands free to do other things.
You could pick up mad ladies with wings on your back.
You could
Literally pick up mad ladies.
All right, let's move on to the next.
Yeah,
piece.
the next piece. Unless anyone has anything else.
No,
Nope.
no, I'm good.
All right. Our next piece is called Rainbow Dash Night Sonic Rainboom by Alex Makovsky.
Yep.
Again, sorry if I mispronounced it.
Makovsky,
Nope. Alex Makovsky.
Wow. I love this piece actually. Just because of the style that it was done in. It's like Rainbow Dash is very detailed and prominent in the foreground, and then her tail and mane kind of
Turn like
kind
streaky.
of flow into the background and stuff.
This sort of goes along with what Byrne was saying last week about different depths and different things that work to focus or to draw your focus in an image. For example, in this one, you're not so much drawn to Rainbow Dash, but you're more drawn to that huge white ball of just white, hot, sort of awesome in front of her at sort of what would be the start of a Sonic Rainboom, like the what's the word I'm looking for? This like the bow wave, the Sonic bow wave. I don't know. There's a technical term for it, but
it's a Sonic cone or something like that.
Sonic cone, yeah, something like that. I mean, all your focus is sort of drawn into that. That's what you see first when you first look at this image. You've got all these rainbow colors sort of shooting off from that. You got little jagged lightning bolts shooting out of that as well. And from there you move back and you see Rainbow Dash with all her bright colors, and she's sort of muted a bit by that white. And then as you move further away towards the left, to the top left-hand corner, everything is sort of blurred together. All her tail colors sort of blur together to make the rainbow. And then you got the background, which is even simpler again, and the moon, which isn't even a sphere. It's just wavy strokes.
Yeah, it's
everything about this just screams awesome.
When you look at a piece like this, it's really interesting to see where your eye goes, because I guarantee you're gonna look at this piece, you're gonna go, Sonic Cone, and then diagonally up her body to the top left-hand corner. So you go bottom right to top left. It's really cool to see how that can affect how they look at it. And I really love the way that color is such a huge part of this picture. It's very bright, it's very colorful. And I found it really interesting, actually, like you were mentioning, you got this big, bright light at the very beginning. But, looking at that doesn't hurt my eyes. It's not super saturated or anything. I'm not sure how they did that with, like, glow effects, but they did a fantastic job of making it bright, but not painful, because that's a very hard thing to do, especially with those brighter whites, to make sure that it's not painful to look at.
It's funny that you mentioned that like the direction in which your eyes look in this piece, because I've been looking at this piece for a few days now, and I didn't even notice the little lightning bolts coming out like towards the bottom right. because my focus was drawn, on Rainbow Dash and the Sonic Rainboom and stuff. So that's really well done.
I love all the little subtle things in art, all the little subtle things that you won't pick up when you first look, but the more you look at it, the more you see.
Yeah, I love going over a piece 2 or 3 times and catching new stuff each time. And like you said, that's exactly what I was thinking. Those lightning bolts I didn't even notice because you're drawn to the big one and then straight up her body away from the lightning bolts. So it's nice to catch those little ones.
I find it really interesting the way that they did motion in this is by basically creating blurs, like with her mane and tail. Because like in our previous piece, there's a lot of like that, the atmospheric stuff that you can really tell that they're moving through the air. And in this one, you don't have the front of the wings covered in that misty cloud stuff, but you do have this like trailing blur behind her, and in front of her there's this cone that is signature of something moving really fast.
Oh, okay. So I see what you're saying. You're just saying there's different ways to convey motion.
Yes.
Because in the last one we had those things in the front of the wings and the hair. And in this one, it's a different way for the hair because we were mentioning last time, we love the super realistic hair. This is an example of it. You see a bunch of the strands in the hair. So you got the super realistic hair, and then you've got those blurs, and you can tell, obviously, in the last piece we didn't have any blurs. But this one, yeah, okay, that's really cool.
Yeah, and this one you got the motion blurs behind, so it looks like everything's moving forward at a very, very high rate of knots, which is exactly what a Sonic Rainboom is. So what I was going to say is the way that this artist has done all her I don't know, Alex, so maybe. And anyway, the way that this artist has done all the reflections and all the shading on Rainbow Dash and her surroundings, it's really well done. It all looks like it's coming from that bright white ball of fire at the front, which is what it should. So if you look at the front of her hooves, you can't even see them because they're white. They blend in with that fire. But then if you go back and you look at her eyes, they're done sort of opposite to what you'd normally see a pony on the ground, because ponies on the ground, the shines in their eyes are reflected from the sun, which is above them. In this and the big eye shiny is up. In this one, it's coming from the ball of white in front of her, and it's down. It's pointing towards it. So everything there is done perfectly. And then you go further back along her, it's sort of all the white, all the color fades out as you go further along. So on her back legs, there's almost nothing. All the way it's done, it looks amazing.
Yeah,
it's one of my favorites.
Well, speaking of her back legs, holy cow! I just noticed they did a very good job of emphasizing certain points. The face is not blurred at all, and it's not affected too much by the light. So you're naturally drawn to the face. And if you look carefully, if you look at the back legs, I think the artist would probably agree that the back legs are probably a weak point in the piece, just because I don't know. There's something about them that's just like weirdly skinny, or it's hard to tell from here. But you can draw people's eyes away from that. If you have a particularly weak point in your piece that you're not trying to emphasize, you can kind of hide that with blur or glows or stuff like that. And I think the artist does that.
And that cutie mark really stands out.
Yeah, the cutie mark. I think that's one thing that I think could probably use improvement, is just fading that a bit, hiding it underneath glows.
I quite like it.
Yeah, I think it fits choice by the artist. Yeah.
Hilariously enough, I'm looking at the description of this piece, and it's funny that we're talking about flying and wings and everything, because one of the updates, people make updates to their pictures when they see that something's wrong. As vector artists, we miss cutie marks a lot, so we'll go back and we'll add those in and we'll update the picture. Apparently, she or he forgot the wings.
So I don't even know how you do that.
I would love to see a picture of this
without the wings.
Yeah, just without the wings.
Kind of going back to Pinky Dash's shading comments, I really like how they did the front legs, especially like the shading on the front legs, because the big bright cone of white in front of her is like below her legs, kind of. So you wouldn't really be able to see the top of her legs. Like it's the shading is done perfectly in that regards.
Yeah, it's hard to shading is so difficult, just because this one's got a solid light source. I don't think personally the shading is like 100% accurate, just because I feel like if you were pushing forward, like obviously the hooves would be like the point of impact where the cone would start. So it's hard to say whether or not it'd be below or above, because that doesn't really make any sense. But I think as long as the shading looks good enough, that that term sounds negative. The term good enough sounds negative. But I think in this case, good enough is okay, because it still looks great, and it may not be 100% accurate, but as long as it looks good, I think we can stick with it.
Uh-huh. And can I just say that Dashi has such a cute face?
Dashi always has a cute face, okay?
Well, okay then. Yeah, it's true. All right, let's move on to our next piece. Our next piece is called Fighting for Equestria by Anbelanos91, a fellow vector artist and vector inspector on the MLP Vector Club.
That doesn't mean that we're just picking friends, but I thought that I would include a vector because, obviously our roots are in vectors, and it's nice to kind of take a look at these, especially one as original as this. This is This is a really fantastic art piece that Anbo did. He's got his OC up there, Night Thunder, facing some sort of changeling with a battle axe, and he's got a spear, and I think he's doing a series of different action
he's
scenes.
doing a whole lot of these.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think a good thing to start with here that has to do with flying is the wings that he's put on here. Now these are more show accurate wings, as with most vectors. It's more of a show accurate look to it. The ponies look like they could be in the show themselves, and as per usual, the wings do as well. I think there's more feathers shown. There's like 5 or 6 as opposed to, I think it's the 3 or 4 that are normally in the show, but it's generally the same. But what I really like is the feathers coming off of him as he's flying. And we were mentioning before, how do we convey motion, through the things at the beginning of the wings or through blur. This is a great way to convey motion with those feathers flying off. You can tell that he must be going pretty fast if he's having feathers flying off.
Either that or he's being attacked.
Yeah. But even that shows a good motion.
Yes. I kind of like how the flag on his spear is also kind of oriented and flowing, almost as if it's caught in the wind because he's flying and moving. So that also shows some motion.
Right.
It's very interesting to contrast this with our previous 2 pieces because they used blurs and like all these very non-vector kind of techniques to show motion. But this is a very show accurate and I don't want to say simplistic, but minimalistic way of showing motion.
I think vectors in general are more minimalistic than regular pieces.
There's not that much detail in them. And there's not that much detail in most of them, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, look at the moon. I mean, the moon is just big white circle with a couple of craters in it, and that's not a bad thing because we mentioned this all the time actually, that you don't have to put detail into every little bit. And the moon is not a focus. I would have actually personally blurred out those gray circles a little bit, just to kind of like firmly put that moon in the background. Or it's got to be a moon, right? Not a sun.
Yeah.
It's got the craters.
That's the moon.
Yep.
Yeah. So I would have personally blurred those out a little bit more to even push those to the background more. But that's what we're talking about with the less detail on things that aren't as important. Obviously, the important things here are the clouds and the ponies. The only other things in the thing.
And even going back to our second episode, which was the show accurate episode, you can clearly see that Anbelanos has done the background versus the characters correctly because the backgrounds don't have that stroke outline, whereas the characters do, and it kind of makes them pop out from the background.
Yes, the moon doesn't have like a darker stroke around it because it's part of the background.
Yep.
Yes.
I think the clouds are interestingly done. I think personally this is a little bit older of Anbo's work. I know he does some fantastic vector work. There's a little bit of like randomness in these clouds, which kind of works. I'm not really sure because they don't quite look like the show clouds. I'm not really sure what it is about them because they've got, if you look on the outside, they've got no strokes on them. So that would lend them to being a background. But then on the inside, they have strokes on the details. So it almost gives it kind of a 3D look because you've got the...
That's why I like it.
Yeah.
Yep.
You'll also find, not that that whole not having an outline sort of thing. It isn't just for background. In the show, they don't use outlines for anything except the ponies. Like if you look at the changing, if you look at Anbo's OC, neither of the things that they're holding have outlines.
Ah, very good point. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's not just stuff that's in the background. It's
less important things.
Stuff
in general.
that isn't a pony. It's stuff that's not. Yeah, stuff that's not going to say not important because everything
not the focus necessarily.
Yes, it's not the focus. Also, the way that changing is holding the axe is pretty funny.
Yeah. The holes. I can't imagine it's a very secure grip unless the change things can like squeeze their holes or something. Wow. Okay.
Oh my.
So about Anbo's weapon, let's move completely away from that. There's an interesting effect on Anbo's weapon, which is kind of like a lightning effect that he's put on there. It's like a blurred stroke there. And I know personally from vectoring that putting on effects like that are very, very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
You know, lightning and different things like that come out weird because you don't know whether or not to put a stroke on them or just have them as a fill, and how do you blur them. But I think it came out nicely here. Again, it's not supposed to be a focus, so it came out nicely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he did that actually really well. Considering, well, not I don't want to say considering it's a vector, but like he did it really well to blend in with his style that he chose.
There are limitations to being a vector. There's limitations to making it look show accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
But he's done a very good job with this one.
All right, I think we should probably move on to our last piece, which is going back towards the more realistic approach, and I think we've have we featured something by this?
Yes, Aaron JVL becoming my new favorite artist because we started featuring his or her. I'm going to assume that everyone that we're talking about is male because that's what I do on the internet. But if you're not, then feel free to message us and we will correct it if we use your art in the future. We don't mean it as an insult that we're assuming you're a guy. I just do that because it's the internet. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Yeah. So Aaron JVL is quickly becoming one of our favorite artists because the stuff that he does is very, very detailed. We had something last week which was was it called Day?
Yes, it was called Day.
So that was one of those ultra realistic looks to it, and
they are one of the best pony artists that I've seen.
And this is a little bit of a stretch, to be honest with you, because this could run as a non-pony art, but I think the combination of the fact that, you know, obviously it is Philomena or one of the Phoenix. Yeah, it is Philomena. It's in the title. By the way, the title is Philomena, Equestria's Finest Phoenix. That's a tongue twister. Equestria's Finest Phoenix.
Nice.
But obviously it is Philomena, but you could totally submit this as a non-MLP piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though all the groups it's in are ponies.
Right. Obviously we know because the artist deals with ponies and the groups are ponies and it is Philomena, but I think it's really interesting. Yeah. This is kind of a stretch from us because usually we try to feature pony.
Nothing but pony.
Pony.
So this one has an interesting combination of a couple of effects here. There's not a huge amount of motion being conveyed through this picture. I mean, you got things like the feathers coming off, kind of like what we had with the vector, you know, the feathers coming off, but that doesn't really convey motion. It looks much more like a still picture than the other ones that we featured.
Mm-hmm.
I'd tend to disagree.
Differ. Yeah. Go ahead, PD.
I would tend to disagree. And from what I can see, it looks like she's Philomena's a she, right? Maybe.
Yes.
Yep. She looks like she's sort of flying up and sort of backwards. So it's as she's come from the bottom left-hand side of the screen, and she's flying sort of backwards, like rearing up to do a dive or something. Made evident by the fact that her tail is very much pointed towards the left-hand side of the screen.
That's a good point. I wasn't really focusing on the tail. I think it's confusing me a little bit because the pose in particular looks kind of like maybe like a hawk swooping down on prey. Yep. So I think that's confusing me a little bit. But I see what you mean with the tail and the feathers and stuff.
And the fact that you said you didn't even notice the tail is fantastic because the artist, from what I can tell, sort of made that happen. So they've used these really bright colors on all the feathers that are falling off, which sort of makes sense because phoenix, fire, that sort of thing, which sort of makes sense. So you've got all these bright colors that you don't notice straight away against the really dull not dull, but sort of darker color the background. So the dark blue background, and then you got the white. Everything's sort of coming from that left-hand side of the screen, which is fantastic.
I didn't even notice the background until now. And when you mentioned it, like if you look in the upper left corner, just the clouds and the lighting and stuff like that, it looks fantastic.
It looks almost
like,
real.
Wow. Yeah.
It looks like a photo of the sky.
Yeah.
Yep.
It looks kind of like maybe that's like a very faded like moon. It looks almost. Well, I think naturally I tend to stray towards faces in pictures, and obviously bird faces are no exception. So I think that's why I didn't really notice the tail, is because my eye would go from the face down to the claws and then back up again to the wings. Which, by the way, the wings again, absolutely fantastic. Just the way that the feathers go. We love the non-show accurate, very detailed wings.
I was just gonna say I love the fact that there's sparks coming off of her wings.
All the fire and the phoenix. Yeah.
Yes. Go ahead.
So what I was going to say, one of the questions either last week or the week before was your favorite style of art, and I said the ultra realistic, the huge pieces. I find them overwhelming. This is the complete opposite. Even though it is one of those massive pieces, it's not that overwhelming at all. Everything in here is really intricately detailed, but it's not too much to look at. It's not too much to handle. It's a lot of very subtle things, and there's there's hundreds of thousands of little tiny dots here, but you don't see them all. They're sort of blended to the background. You see the things that stick out, and you got this ultra realistic wings and hair, which I love, and you got the background again, which is again realistic, but it sort of blends into itself.
I think that comes a lot from the colors that are used in this. I think sometimes when we were talking about being overwhelmed by detail, it's when you have things like hair. And let's say you're looking at a pony's hair and you've got super detailed things and you've got darks and lights all mashed together to give it that detail, obviously. But also that can be kind of overloading because you've got the contrast. But if you look here, for example, in the wings, it never really strays too far from that dark red. It's a very gradual from dark red to light red to that yellow. It's a gradient. And so there's never any like extreme colors used to give detail. This is obviously much harder to do. An easier way to do it is to give those extreme highlights to give detail, but obviously this subtle one is much more a masterful approach to give detail. It's very hard to do because it's very subtle color changes, and you can see that like in her plumage underneath her wing as it opens up. Very, very, very subtle. Yeah. It's all that dark,
beautiful plumage. Yeah, Monty Python reference. Had to put it in there.
Nice. Yeah, I have to say Aaron JVL does an awesome job at making sure that what should be in focus is in focus, and like that it really draws your eye. And not to say that like they leave out detail in the rest of the image, but it's like it complements everything. It's like it's such a well done piece that Philomena's face and chest and claws are really what's in focus here, and that draws you in. And I know Rainbow Plasma, that's what drew you in too.
Yep,
and
absolutely.
then you notice the rest of it, and you just keep expanding out and out and out, and you notice other things.
I have a hard time actually sometimes when I'm looking at art, pulling myself away from the focuses of the art. For example, here, like you were saying, the face and the claws. I have a hard time when I'm looking at a picture, dragging my eyes around because they always just naturally snap back to that. But I don't think that's the fault of the artist. I think that's just a personal thing of mine. So I tend to overlook details. Like I overlook the entire direction of the tail. Come on.
It's interesting because PD, you mentioned that like it looks like she's kind of flying up from the bottom left of the screen to the upper right.
Yep.
That would have to be a really, really big step, just judging by the way that all the fire and the flames are kind of going. It almost looks like she was swooping down and kind of stopped abruptly.
Oh, that's interesting. No, that's an interesting point. Like stopping abruptly, so everything else, like the tail and the sparks, move like they're being like shot forward. Okay, no, I disagree with you now. Now that I've heard that, Pinky Dash, I disagree with you. I think she did. I think she is coming down for a swoop, but because she spread her wings, she's slowing down and the sparks come flying off. And I don't know, the feathers are confusing me a bit because naturally you'd think the feathers would come off in the opposite direction.
That's what got me, because I see where you're coming from, and that would make sense with the tail, but the feathers, because they would hang on the air, they would still be behind her.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Well, true. Maybe we should have Aaron JVL on the show, so we can ask him or her for the opinion on that. We'll have to look into it. So there's one more thing actually I wanted to bring up that we're not going to really feature on the show, but there was one. We usually have a couple of runners up for art pieces that we want to select. This episode in particular, holy cow! If you go to our DeviantArt gallery, every single week we have a favorites folder in our DeviantArt gallery, which takes you through every single piece of art that we show on the show, and you can follow along there. And we also give maybe one or two honorable mentions or things that we couldn't bring up on the show, but we kind of wanted to feature anyways. This episode is going to have like 30 art pieces, I swear, because we had so many good pieces. I think we might have to do another flying episode just because of all the amazing pieces that we had ready for people.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
definitely,
if you go to cutieartcrusaders.deviantart.com, check out our favorites folders. Follow the link in the description if you're watching this on YouTube, straight to the folder. Go check that out because we've got a ton of other pieces of art that are really awesome. One of them that I wanted to bring up, just because it happened to be the same artist, Aaron JVL, also made something called The Journey, which I thought was a fantastic use of clouds, and happened to be flying as well. So I thought I'd just bring that up. We can show it on the screen. Maybe not talk about it quite as much, but
it looks
still
so
a pretty
fluffy.
Cool art piece.
So
there's a little sample of the honorable mentions that you'll get if you head on to our DeviantArt page.
This is why I want to be a Pegasus, because clouds are so fluffy, but they're also wet and cold.
You would die.
Yeah.
From happiness.
Yeah.
No, from impact on the ground.
Not if I was a Pegasus.
All right. Well, let's head on to the questions section then. I think we're done.
Just one last thing. Seriously, go check out Aaron JVL.
Yeah,
it's amazing work.
He or she is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And with that, it is question time. In fact, go check out all of our artists, because each one of them has some amazing stuff in their gallery.
I think people do. I think people who are really interested in the stuff will actually go to the DeviantArt gallery and go check it out.
Alex Makovsky, go check him out. He's amazing. Okay.
They're all awesome. Check them all out.
Okay,
on to
questions. Alright, first question that I have this week was sent in to us via email, but unfortunately they didn't leave a name, so I'm just going to call them Anonymouse. Like anonymous with a mouse in it. So, question number 1. How do you decide what each weekly theme will be? Sent in by Anonymouse. And Rainbow Plasma, seeing as it's your department.
Right, yeah. Mostly I'm the one who handles the theme. I consult other people about it. So, for example, we choose themes for next episode, like while we're recording this one, so we'll tell you the theme for next episode because it's a little bit special. But, for example, last week we had the theme of water. So then we would decide before the podcast, okay, next week is flying. And basically the way that we decide that is we take a piece of art that we really, really like. So, for example, I don't remember exactly which one it was of here, and I don't even think it made it into the show, but we saw one and we said, wow, I'd really like to feature this piece of art. And so then we look at that and we go, okay, what does this exemplify? Does this exemplify color? Does it exemplify water? Does it show a lot of fire? For example, the fire one was a good example because I had one piece of art that I really wanted to show, and I said, okay, this is doing fire. I think fire would be an interesting theme. Let's pick other pieces based on it. So, for example, this one, if we picked, for example, Royal Rumble, we would pick Royal Rumble and say, I want to feature that piece of art. What are they doing? Well, they're flying and they're princesses. So we could either have a flying episode or a princess episode. And, flying kind of works better. So that's how we choose our theme. And then we tell it to you guys send stuff in, we take a look at it ourselves and come up with the pictures.
Make them pretty and say things.
A lot of art can be crossed over into other themes too. So like
that.
That's why we'll talk about how it's related to flying and stuff like that, but we'll also mention like the other various artistic aspects of the pieces.
As an example, and Bern is going to love me, but RP is going to hate me. Fireflies by Blitzpony has come up in three different episodes.
Bring up this picture every single episode. Nothing against the person who makes this picture, but I've had this piece of art shoved down my throat for the last what is this, episode 8? Okay, then the last 27 weeks. So I'm being excessive. I've been had this piece shoved down my throat. But okay, fine. You want to use that as an example? Fine.
Go ahead.
That's a great one for, let's say, night or fire or a bunch of different stuff.
Or water or, etc., etc., etc.
So yes, there's a bunch of different themes that things could fit into, but we basically pick 1 or 2 pieces of art, pick a theme based on that, and then fit in other things around it. Next question. Enough of this nonsense.
Question number 2. What is your favorite piece of art done by each of the other hosts? Sent in by Arimas, I think. Ahrimas. Arimas.
Yes.
This is a good question. I like this question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what we did was we all... I mean, if we were to say, for example, I would pick 3 pieces of art and then everybody else would pick 3, that's going to take forever. So what we decided to do is we decided to kind of do like a rotation. So I would pick one of Pinky Dash's arts that I liked, and then Pinky Dash would pick Flutter Guy, and then Flutter Guy would pick me, and then we kind of do like a rotation. So it's not quite as many. And also, I don't really like self-promoting. I'm not a huge fan of it, just because I feel like there's other pieces of art that deserve screen time.
Yeah, exactly.
But I guess we can do it.
I never said my stuff anyway.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll start. So I picked a picture of Pinky Dash's, and I picked something called "Friendship is Cupcakes."
Yeah.
And I really liked this one because not only was it original style and like just completely out there, but it also exemplified your name, which I really like. I like it when you actually do Pinky Dash themed vectors.
Although they're kind of reverse, unless you're reading from right to left.
Yeah, Dash Pinky.
Dash Pinky.
Rainbow Pie.
There you go, Rainbow Pie.
Yeah, so I had to get the term right. Yeah, so I really like this one. I like original style vector art pieces. And,
that's also one of my favorites. I quite like that one.
It's made from a particular animation,
which will not get linked to you for various reasons.
We will not link to you for various reasons. This is a safe for work podcast. And yeah. Anyways, let's move on.
Okay, so I will go next, seeing as I've just got featured, and I went through Flutter Guy's gallery and had a look for something, and what I found was this one, which was the Cutie Art Crusaders. Cutie Mark Crusaders.
Mark Crusaders.
I'm so used to saying that now. I say it everywhere. The
know.
Cutie Mark Crusaders, and it's from the what was it? What episode was it?
It was the
looking for the Cutie Mark story.
We're bad bronies.
Yeah.
We're bad. That was such a general term too. You just said the episode where they were looking for their cutie marks. No, really?
Cutie Mark Chronicles.
That's the one.
Guys.
Cutie Mark.
There we go.
Yeah.
Cutie Mark.
That's
the episode.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Questing for the cutie marks.
Mm-hmm.
And I love this one. They all have, especially Appleblue's face.
I know.
Yeah, they all have great faces in this.
They have great faces. They're falling out of the sky. I don't know why Scootaloo. I know she can't fly, but she can keep herself from falling. So I don't know why she doesn't do that.
Nah, she can't fly. Everybody knows that.
And
this
was very cute. I love this one.
It's so much fun to vector too, especially Apple Bloom's face.
I can imagine that'd be quite fun.
Yeah. If you don't remember that episode, that's when they were ziplining, and they fell from the zipline.
Yeah, that must have been like a quick frame. Like must not have been on the screen for very long.
Yeah.
I've never heard of a pony ziplining before. Anyway, out of this one, that's just the one that I chose.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a fun piece for me too. All right, so I guess I will go last, seeing as Burns not here. And I chose a piece by Rainbow Plasma, called Hugs, with like 5 or 6 U's.
It's 5.
Which is
get it right.
I can't count that quickly. This shows Fluttershy and Rainbow Dash about to hug or singing or something.
No, they were about to hug.
But it's just so cute. And it's actually kind of funny because we were both working on a Flutter Dash vector at the same time. And we kind of both showed each other our vectors and kind of got feedback from each other. And yeah.
This vector is really cool to do, actually, because believe it or not, like these are 2 separate scenes put together. This is the one on the left. Fluttershy is singing during a song, Well, they're both singing, but she's this is like 1 or 2 frames. It's not that big of an animation. And then Rainbow Dashes is later in the song when she swoops into the air and there's like fireworks in the background. But I learned while vectoring this that they're actually the same pose.
Yeah,
it's reused animation assets.
Happens all the
time.
time.
Like if you were to take the Rainbow Dash, flip it, and stick it on Fluttershy, it's very similar. There's little subtle details. I think,
for example, Fluttershy has no teeth.
Shut up. That's the way it was in the show, so that's the way I kept it.
The wings look different. The mane and tail are obviously different.
Yeah, but the body pose is, I think, the exact same in the legs and stuff. So that was really cool to vector.
Yeah, it's just a really cute vector too. Great, you did a great job.
Thank you.
You always do a great job. Self-promotion.
Anyways, we also picked one for Bernd because he's not here.
Yes.
So we all agreed on one in particular that we thought was awesome, and it's something by him called Master Study. And
it's not a vector.
Yes. Yay! It's not a vector. Yeah. Woo!
It's not a vector.
This shows that one of us actually does have some artistic talent.
I've discovered my artistic talent. Okay. This is something that Bernd did for, I believe it was his art final. I'm not sure if this is for his final piece or not. This is just in the middle of his semester, but he's the only one who's actually taken an art class. And during this art class, he decided to draw this, which came out, I think, just absolutely amazingly.
Definitely.
Yes.
And you can see that Bernd is the most educated in terms of art out of all of us, just because of all of this. I didn't know he had it in him because he's too lazy to ever actually do any art. He just likes talking about it. But when he does do art, he does it pretty well.
It's actually interesting. This piece, it's based on another piece.
It's a ponification, isn't it? He's made it into ponies.
No, Master Study - Celestia by Cosmic Unicorn. And basically what Bernd did was he kind of transcribed it. Like he didn't trace over it or anything, but he used it as a reference and just transcribed it and tried to put his own unique shading style and stuff in it.
Spin on it. You can see kind of like the similarities within the two, and I know that it's just a different medium. And that's how they gets the name, by the way, the Master Studies, because he did a master study of
a master study.
This guy's master study. We know Cosmic Unicorn.
It's kind of neat because you can see like one of the differences is in Celestia's mane, where Bernd actually completes the outline and does it very detailed, where Cosmic Unicorn kind of his outline is a little
it's
frayed.
Not there.
Yeah, not complete. So yeah, just subtle differences, details between the two different pieces.
I personally like the emphasis that Bernd put in this one. He in the other master study by Cosmic Unicorn, which of course I'm going to have to edit in now because we're talking about it so much. The master study that was done by Cosmic Unicorn, the shading was a bit rougher, and it also did not put as much emphasis on the actual, pony. So I think Bernd did a good job of putting the emphasis on the pony. And I like the emphasis on the pony because I like ponies. You know it.
Yeah, it's actually interesting if you look at the branch right above Celestia's head. In Cosmic Unicorn's piece, it's like very blocky, very calculated kind of, and in Bernd's, it's a little bit more subdued, more dull, and there's a lot more strokes.
Little blurred.
Yeah.
Sort of.
So
that's the one that we liked with Burns. We thought we'd include him.
Yes.
Just because.
Yes.
He wasn't.
Just because he's not here, because he's off at Everfree having fun. So we thought we'd include him anyway, even though we're all.
I don't know why we did it. Jeez, can't even come on the podcast. All right, well that's it for this week. That's it for our questions and our art. Thank you guys for watching again. I'd just like to point out something. Now a good friend of ours, the percussion brony, sent in an email. He sent an email a little while back, I believe, asking if he could make some music for our show. And he actually sent us this little jazzy piece that you'd be hearing in the background that I tried to insert here and there in this podcast and just kind of test it out. And I think personally, just listening to it, it sounds really great. So thank you to the Percussion Brony for doing that. We will try to include more of these kind of background pieces in the future, because I understand sometimes it's a bit dull just listening to voices. So adding a little bit in the background sounds like a good idea.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
and we will have
a lot of viewers use this as background for them doing other stuff anyway. So
yeah.
We will have a fan art episode too, so
that's coming.
Anything that you guys send in and stuff.
Yeah, we need to schedule that. Definitely send in some stuff that you've made. It doesn't need to be like stuff for the show. Just if you send in stuff that say, "Hey, I made this. Can you feature on the show?" Then we'll gather those all together and try to make like a big bonanza episode with like.
No, you're wrong. You have to make it about the show. It has to feature us in the show.
Well, no, it can feature the show if you
has
want.
To feature
but
the show.
we've no, shut up. We've had a couple of pieces sent in that were for themes that we couldn't quite fit in, or they weren't for a theme and they just said, "Hey, can you use this in the future?" So we'll try to make a fan episode.
Yeah.
So speaking of things that we can plug, Pinky Dash.
Yep. Okay, so I will do my little bit here. Okay, so our plugging for this week. As per usual, we have our email account, which is cutieartcrusaders@gmail.com. Anything that you want us to have a look at, or anything you want us to feature on the show, or any questions, or anything about the show that you want to talk to us about, send it through there. Remember to please put what you're talking to us about in the subject of the email. I got it right that time.
Yes.
Finally.
Yes.
Put it in the subject.
Good job, buddy. Subject line.
If it's questions, put questions or ask or something somewhere in the subject. If it's art, put art in there. Just because the way we've got Gmail set up, it automatically sorts stuff for us. One thing I will say, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. If you do send us a question or a piece of art, please put your avatar name unless you want us to use an anonymous name or your actual name.
We don't want to include actual names just in case people don't actually want, because when it's associated with a Gmail account, a lot of times it'll
names.
Get the names, and we don't want to put out your name if you don't want it out there. So either just let us know that we can use our name. It usually, if you sign the email, like if you put like dash something, so dash Percussion Brony, for example, Percussion Brony sent us in the one because he's got his name all set, so make sure to send us in a name. It's not a big deal. I mean, if you don't really worry about being on the show, then don't worry about it. But we don't want to use any names that might come back to haunt us. So.
Exactly. Yeah. Something else about the emails: we do read them all. If you don't get a reply from us, please don't take it as an offense. We don't mean to. It's just we haven't got around to replying just yet. We're kind of everywhere. People are not being here in a way and that sort of stuff. So. We do read them. If we don't respond to you, it's not something against you. It's just that we haven't had time or haven't got around to it yet. On that as well, we have a DeviantArt page, which is Cutie Art Crusaders, all one word, .deviantart.com, where all four of us, our individual pages are linked. So if you really want to get in contact with us, that's the best way to go about it. So come to our DeviantArt pages and send us a note or leave us a message or something like that, and we can respond usually within a day or two pretty quickly.
DeviantArt's a great place, obviously, for checking out anything that goes on the show.
Yep.
And honorable mentions. I'm pushing the honorable mentions this week because we have so many honorable mentions.
So many.
And I'm looking to the future because I know I'm going to have to put together this folder. So go check out the honorable mentions folder.
Yeah, definitely do that. And do you want to mention the theme now, next week?
No, that's one more thing.
Twitter.
We have a Twitter account, so that's at Cutie Art Crusade. So head over there if you want any up-to-date news. That's where I personally post if, for example, we're having troubles with the streams, or if you need to be reminded about the streams, then Twitter's a good place there. I also try to respond there to people who ask questions. Quick little one-off things, not like questions for the show, but just little things like can I do this, or what's the theme for next week, or little things like that. I try to respond.
Yeah. We also have a Facebook page, but we're not really that active on there. But feel free to like us. It's Cutie Art Crusaders.
Yes.
At Facebook. Yep.
Okay, exciting news coming from Rainbow Plasma about next week.
Yes. Okay. So next week's theme, this is usually where we'd announce next week's theme, but we don't have a theme next week. And the reason is that we have a special guest coming on the show next week.
Yay.
That is right.
Guest.
We have someone called, drumroll please.
Not happening, but yeah.
Thank you.
totally happen.
Thank you, Flutter Guy. I'm gonna have to.
That's gonna get cut out with the noise removal.
I will do a drum roll then. Jeez. Veggie 55.
Yay!
Yes.
We have Veggie 55 coming on the
Yay.
show next week, which is really awesome. So we're looking forward. If you have any questions for Veggie 55, now is the time. You have a couple of days since this comes out to send us messages to our email or our DeviantArt page or our Twitter or whatever. Send us a message asking Veggie 55 and we will read it on the show. So there.
Yeah.
If you don't recognize Veggie 55's name, he's the guy with all the comics.
Yeah, he's the comic guy.
The awesome comics.
Really?
Yeah.
I would suspect that Veggie 55 would be one. I think he's one of the best.
He's one of the best, yeah. He's one of the most
well known. Yeah.
Yeah.
So look forward to that next week.
And one of the best.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
I think that's everything for this week, unless you guys have anything else to say.
No, I'm sweet.
No. I'm
All
good.
right. Well, this is Rainbow Plasma.
I'm Flutterguy317.
And I'm Pinky Dash.
And we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye to all.